I am Jim Collison, and this is the Clifton Strengths Podcast Season 2, recorded on November 14th, 2022. In this Clifton Strengths podcast series, we'll look at the Clifton Strengths for Leaders report, one theme at a time. And today's theme is intellection. If you're listening live, love to have you join us on our chat room. If you don't see it, there's a link to it right above me there that'll take you to it. Or if you have questions after the fact, you can send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jaclynn Robinson is our host today. She works as a Gallup Learning and Development Consultant and joined me for Season 1 of the Clifton Strengths podcast, where we looked at well-being at work for each theme. And Jaclynn, always great to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Let's do this.
We are diving into intellection. Let's get started. What is intellection?
Intellection is characterized by your intellectual activity. So you're introspective and appreciate intellectual discussion if this is you.
And we're going to spend a lot of time this season talking about leadership. So the power of this theme in a leadership role is what?
Well, a leader with this theme is just not one to make rash decisions. So the value they offer is they take time to process and weigh information and or different perspectives before taking action.
I like what I heard in that there's in previous seasons of Theme Thursday, we talked a little bit about how it sorts. And I think this theme has got that sorting kind of quality as we think about how that theme could lead others. And maybe even too in the context of sorting and the benefit of that. How could this theme be used to lead others?
Well, it's when you have a leader with this theme, they encourage opportunities to be more introspective, and they likely create space, I think, in a meeting for reflection or deeper discussions to occur. And as a result, it gives team members more confidence in that decision-making process. To your point, even with sorting, they could use that meeting as an opportunity to really sort through the different ideas or strategies that they have versus just, moving to action on one of those.
For the benefit of some, we think with intellection, the ability, or we might want to give them time, whether this could be the leaders themselves or leaders with followers, long stretches of time where they can simply muse. And I love that word, muse, right? Because it kind of, for me at least, it conjures up these thoughts of just long connected thoughts of working through things. I have moments like that, but they're not very often, and they're not always productive, but I do enjoy that. What do you think about that? Thinking about these moments of musing where folks are just given time to think.
I love it, and I think it's a need for sure for someone high in intellection, is making sure they have the time to muse. I call it the quiet time or the think time, because that's how they're going to process so much information and the strategies that they might have as a leader or the people they need to develop as a leader. That think time is where the work is being produced oftentimes.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's needed for clarity, right? It's needed for confidence in that decision. I need to spend some time thinking through this to gain that confidence that I have. Maybe separated, or that might sound a lot like deliberative in some regards, right? But this thinking through processes, spending time doing that, very, very valued. I've had some friends that I know are high in this, and I can give them an idea, and I'll say, I'll follow up with you in a couple days. Like I intentionally, hey, just think about this for me. Like, not right now. I don't want an answer now, which I think may be better for them in some regards. Not looking for you to answer this right now, but go spend some time musing on this. And that's not what I say, because those aren't my words. But
like, Jim, who are you?
Yeah.
It's a great call out.
Do you think, it's super helpful. And then they'll come back a couple days later and be like, hey, I thought this through. It's so much, because I can't. I mean, I've thought about it for 5 minutes. That's 4 minutes more than I normally would. So just being transparent there. What about, as they think about with high intellection and working on their own strengths, what do you think we could throw at them that would help them really dig into that and think about it? Their own strengths.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
using their own strengths? Are
Yeah.
we thinking theme dynamics here? What do you
Yeah,
want to throw at me?
yeah, maybe well, maybe in that sense or just spending time working through what kind of like
Mhm.
resources may be really available or beneficial to
Yes.
them, right? And thinking about this?
Yes. And even having, I've noticed leaders with high intellection, if they have a coach or a thought partner where they can think about what it is that they might need to, where they need to pull resources or what conversation they want to have with another leader, all of that just helps them, I think, muse on the action that they want to take or the conversation they want to take.
Mm,
So oftentimes I found that really helpful in
yeah.
coaching leaders. And going back to your point about confidence, then it boosts confidence because they've had time to think it out personally, and then they can bounce it off someone that's a trusted confidant for them, whether it's a fellow
Mhm.
leader or a coach. So by the time they make that decision, it's led with confidence.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love it when those who are leading have high intellection, because I
Me
can
too.
I can kind of I can kinda lean into that, just kinda knowing I don't.
Hmm.
And I think it's also interesting pairing leaders together that have high intellection and letting them think through that. I usually try to
Ooh,
leave the room when they do because I can't go I just can't. I can't go that long while they're
that's going
right.
deep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, maybe a little intellection inception on that line as they go
I'm
in.
stealing that.
I think also that important in some cases as leaders in this knowing I have it, of maybe partnering with someone who
Hmm.
has some movement, right? Who has some
Yes.
ability to get things going. You wanna add to that before we move on?
Oh, no, that's brilliant. Someone with movement that can take their thoughts to action, or someone with influence. Oftentimes, and we know all
Mm,
themes can influence,
mm,
but
yeah.
um, those that I've spoken to that have an election in their top 10 would say it really does help me when I've got someone else with greater influence or knows how to really persuade people a bit more adeptly or naturally than I do to help me, you know, um, push an initiative through or to help me just act.
Mm,
Get
mhm.
up and start moving to action.
Yeah. So
I like
those with
that.
high intellection, to stop the podcast right now. You're gonna need to spend some time thinking about this. Go ahead. Okay,
Mhm.
it'll be here when you get back.
Go find
But
your accountability buddy.
that's right. That's right. Some practical advice there for our friends with high intellection. How can this theme get in the way, hinder, when we think about those ways in leading others, how could this
Yes.
theme kind of get in the way, be a speed bump?
I think we've done a great job of just starting to tease that out. A leader with this theme can spend too much time in thought and not move to action quick enough. And so, whether it's for the leadership team's sake or the organization's sake, some initiatives just require faster responses. And so,
Mhm.
who do they know and trust that is going to move them in the right direction more expediently than they might otherwise?
I think for leaders who have this high self-awareness around this one is super
Hmm.
important, right? To know going in, hey, what are the parameters that I need to set, especially for my team or the teams that I'm leading or the areas that I have influence over or working with. I think
Hmm.
self-awareness, I mean, it's important with all the themes. I think this is one of those when we think about things that can trip it up. This
Hmm.
may be one that gets tripped up often in group settings, in team settings. And I feel like the self-awareness around that and then some strategies. And this may be one you've said this before where we look back, like, what successes have you had with this in the past? That you can bring forward to now?
Yes,
That may be a really, really important question to ask for folks who have high intellection, just so they can
that's a great
think
one.
through that, put some things in place so they're not caught off guard. Because there's a
Hmm.
time element to this. It doesn't always have to be time, but there's time elements to this. I
Hmm.
think I need time to think through this, and so some plans in place when you're not given that time, I think might be appropriate. What do you think?
Yes.
Any thoughts? Any other thoughts?
I like that. I like your direction. And I was just thinking too, the value of having partners around you or another theme in your top 10 that would move with more expediency. Because I think the last 3 years has probably really tested those with an
Mm.
election if they are in a leadership
Mhm.
position, whether it's a merger, an acquisition, layoffs, furloughs, a response to the pandemic. now what we're seeing leaders moving towards 2023 and what that can look like, um, it's probably tested quite a few
Yeah.
with an
Yeah.
election in terms of moving quick and
Yeah.
having a response quick and not deliberating so much on the messaging you want for employees to have that it causes paranoia or nervousness or
Yeah.
anxiety with the employee base.
Of course, a lot of other themes around that, and it's just
Mhm.
this is a great opportunity for you. We have some basic insights for you to kind of think through on this. This may get you or your thought process started. And then just we have lots more resources inside the report itself. Clifton Strengths for Leaders report is available for you if you want to go in there. Some helps and or some some action items, some
Mhm.
hinder and some things that you can do with them
I really love
and
that
love to have
report.
you interact with that report. Yeah, it's been I've really enjoyed having it so far. In fact, I mentioned to you right before the show, I'm gonna go back and dig in across all the reports
Mhm.
on Maximizer. I've That's been one for me that I've just kind of come to
Mhm.
really trying to figure out how it works for me, and I'm gonna dig in on these. Let's dig in on intellection a little bit with those two, the other two.
Yes.
So as a leader, how can I use that Clifton Strengths for Manager report in combination? How can I put those two together as we think about this for greater success?
Yes. I automatically thought about someone high in an election having enough time carved out in the day to consider the people and the projects that they need to manage. Because that time in the day, whether it's top of the morning before they even get started in the day or mid afternoon check in, but that time helps them think about the actions that need to be taken, the people they need to talk to or develop, the priorities that they need to attend to, etc. And without that think time, you can feel a bit like you're a hamster in a wheel, and it can create a lot of uneasiness or anxiety.
I often think of thinking, if you can't get it in a block, maybe
Hmm.
give yourself permission to have it in the breaks, right?
Yes, the
Throughout the
15
day.
minute breaks.
Yeah,
Yes.
right, or the commute,
Or 10.
or the
Yep.
train, or the this is time, and then figure out some strategies to work through that
Hmm.
time to spend because I think as a manager, it's really, really important to be strategizing, with small s on that, be strategic, small s, um, in how you're thinking about that time with the folks that you lead.
Hmm.
And then how does that lead to these actions, these manager actions, right? So I love that.
Hmm.
What about the Clifton
That's
Strengths for
critical.
Sales report and then new leaders report? What do you think if we put those two together?
So I thought about their uncanny ability to pose questions and get others to really stop and think. It's like, wow, I haven't considered that before, or wow, I
Uh-huh.
didn't think of it from that angle. It's I share those that have intellection. I'm like, it's like you can just get into the soul of other people and have them consider something that is deeper than where they potentially would have gone. And so I think their attention to a given topic can help others see how beneficial an idea or strategy is for themselves and other people.
Mm, mm.
And they can
Yeah.
really kind of pose those questions and have them go, wow, I didn't think about that angle. This could be a really good strategy or initiative for us after all.
Yeah, throughout the sales process, thinking through
Mhm.
that as of having that kind of all pulled together. Just
Mhm.
this is the third one we've done inside this domain, and thinking about we had learner and strategic right for the first
Mhm.
two that we did, and how even that even the thought of this of thinking like taking the leaders report, taking the sales report by domain, and thinking
Mhm.
through like what would that because there's a lot of similarities in there of things that think through that. So
Yes.
another exercise for an election, another exercise. Now, how does this fit at the domain level for me? How would I think
That's
about
great.
this? Yeah, no, some great.
I
Jaclyn,
like that.
any other final thoughts before I wrap it?
Um it we just talked about well-being, so I would just go back to that briefly to share with those that have an election or are coaching leaders with an election. Really kind of tap and tune into their well-being. Are they pretty anxious? If so, maybe they do need to go take that walk around or use that commute time in a way that's going to be feasible for them. Or do they feel
Mm.
like they're firing on all cylinders and it might be they've got that right balance of thinking and producing results?
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we do have available now in Gallup Access. Go to gallup.com/CliftonStrengths, log in. If you go to the upper left-hand corner and drop it down menu, choose resources, put Intellection in, and you'll get a whole list of everything we've ever
All
done. Not
kinds of
ever, but
goodies.
all kinds of good stuff available for you. Most of the stuff, all the webcasts are there for sure. And if you want to check that out, again, gallup.com/CliftonStrengths and sign in there. Check out the resources tab. Stay up to date with all the webcasts just by following us at gallup.eventbrite.com. Join us on any social platform by searching Clifton Strengths. And thanks for listening today. Certainly hit the subscribe button wherever you're at so you never miss an episode. We'd love to have you come back as we work our way through this. And we want to thank you for listening today. If you're joining us live, they'll be a little extended on this. I've seen some good notes in the chat. So if you're listening live, hang tight for the mid show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.